Monopolies and reforms. Monopolies became huge economic and political forces because the big businesses that used it controlled the markets of trade. So the Interstate Commerce Act and the Sherman Antitrust Act completely shut down monopolies.
Monopolies tried to raise all prices in the area because there was no competition. The only way to buy an item was to get it from the company that sells it, and if one person owns a company, they can raise the prices on everything because no one else will be able to find the item they need anywhere else. An estimated 70 through 80% of the items that were sold by companies were controlled by a monopolistic company. So basically, one guy controls everything and he can make the prices however he wants because no one else will find the item anywhere else.
The progressive movement was the response to the economic and social problems that the industrialization in America brought. People published their beliefs about the misconducts in the industries through books, newspapers, and other ways. They exposed dangerous factory working conditions, poverty in the cities, child labor, and urban slums through the books and newspapers. And this movement started as a social movement, then grew into a huge political movement.
Muckraking, it was the progressive movement brought about the idea of muckraking. Muckraking was used to expose misconducts in the government. Ida Tarbell, a muckraker, used this concept to write the history of the Standard Oil Company. She was an American journalist who wrote about the growing issues of monopolies during industrialization. Tarbell exposed the misconducts of the Standard Oil Company.
The Standard Oil Company was a huge company that produced, transported, and refined oil. It was an American company and was created in 1870 by John D. Rockefeller in Ohio. It was the largest company that refined oil at the time, and it controlled 91% of production. In 1909, the company was sued by the U.S. Department of Justice for sustaining a monopoly and stopping interstate commerce. In 1911, the Standard Oil Company didn't try to monopolize oil production, so it reduced their production of oil to only 11%.
Theodore Roosevelt, he was the president who created the Sherman Antitrust Act. He was called the Trustbuster because he was a supporter for taking action against monopolies. A trustbuster is someone who is employed to enforce antitrust legislation.
Theodore Roosevelt created the Sherman Antitrust Act, and this act basically prohibited trust based on the constitutional power of Congress to regulate interstate commerce. This act was approved on July 2nd, 1890, and it limited the power of companies that controlled a high percentage of the market share. And a trust is when several stockholders in several companies transfer their shares to a single set of trustees. So they basically give their stocks to people that they trust.
Monopolies versus reforms. The monopolies had a greater impact on American society because the Sherman Antitrust Act was created and it prohibited trust and illegal trade. The progressive movement began due to the misconducts caused by monopolies. Theodore Roosevelt took action against monopolies, and muckraking became more widely used. These reforms had a huge impact on society, but were all caused by monopolies. Monopolies helped form the restrictions and laws that we have today.